So last season, Manchester United did not score enough goals. In particular, the two centre-forwards didn't really do enough. Joshua Zirkzee scored just 3 Premier League goals last campaign, and Rasmus Højlund only got 4, not exactly firing on all cylinders. Now, yes, we have tried to address it already in this window by bringing in proven goal scorers, Bryan Mbeumo and Matheus Cunha. However, I think as fans, we still feel that we need a striker, and it seems as though Manchester United agree. The question is, who? So the first name that I want to throw into the hat is that of Ollie Watkins. Of course, currently playing for Aston Villa, Manchester United have already been linked with a move for him this summer, and I've got to say he would be up there with one of my favourite contenders for this position because of the skill set that he would bring to the team, and also the fact that he is Premier League proven, which seems to be something that we are leaning towards this summer. In terms of what Ollie Watkins would bring to the side, I think it's obvious. It's pretty complete centre-forward play. I wouldn't necessarily say he is elite in one particular area. He's not a specialist in one certain trait, but all round as a centre forward, he does every job pretty well. Starting off with his physicality, giving you an outball from goal kick situations when you can't play out from the back, you need to go over. Ollie Watkins is a very useful player in these positions. Not necessarily someone who is going to pluck the ball out of the air with an amazing first touch and control it in that sense. But if you want someone who is going to be a handful for centre-backs, who is going to pester the centre-backs in these situations and constantly challenge them and, give your team a second ball to work with. So let's say you go long, Ollie Watkins may not bring it down, but he's going to get some sort of contact, and then other people try and get onto that second ball. Ollie Watkins is absolutely going to bring that to the team. The other thing that he would bring if he was to sign is the ability to run the other way. Ollie Watkins is a relentless runner, someone that likes to stretch the opposition defence and move into the channels, particularly towards the left-hand side. He loves peeling into this position here, breaking in behind the opposition defence to attack that space. And with Matheus Cunha then attacking the space that Watkins has created, that could actually work really nicely. You could almost end up with a situation where Bruno Fernandes moves forward, Casemiro is a sort of holding midfielder, you've got Cunha and Bruno in these positions here, then you've got Watkins and Mbeumo almost become a bit of a front two in these situations. And like I said, Watkins could spin into the channel. That's going to create room for others, but also make himself a massive goal scoring threat. He's brilliant in these positions. He runs in behind very well. And what I love is that he doesn't need too long to shoot. He gets into shooting positions very quickly. The only concern would be he's not a lethal goal scorer. He's scored a good amount of goals since being in the Premier League, but I'm not sure he's the best finisher in the world. He does miss some easy chances, but that's to be expected. His movement, though, creates a lot of good opportunities for himself. The other concern would be the age and the price also. If this is £60 million for someone that's 29 years old, is too expensive. If you can get it closer to 40, then I think it's a good deal because I think he's comfortably got 3, if not 4 years left at this level. Watkins is a great option. Another option that we need to discuss is, of course, Benjamin Sesko. This is probably the biggest link to a striker for Manchester United right now, and it's obvious to see why, because this guy is essentially in the mould of Erling Haaland, which isn't a bad thing, looking at the best striker on the planet right now, finding a player of a similar mould seems like a pretty sensible idea. And the reason why I make the comparison is because he is 6'4", so he's massive and very physical, very strong, an excellent target man, someone you can go long to. Again, he's going to win the headers. Great, but also he is rapid, like ridiculously quick, strangely quick for his size. His ability to go in behind is an absolute joke, and he doesn't actually always appear that quick, but trust me, it's the power in his running which makes him magnificent. And again, if you want a player to hunt a loose ball, Cesco is that man, because that frame, that size, coming at you with speed, must be absolutely horrifying for defenders to try and deal with. If you imagine there's a ball that's gone in behind over the top of the defence, and you're the centre-back sort of keeping half an eye on the ball, but also where Cesco is, and Cesco is 6'4", sprinting at you like a train, that's going to be something that is pretty difficult for any defender to deal with. The other good thing about Cesco, though, is that he can also actually get on the ball and play. He isn't just a physical outlet, he's actually also relatively technical. Now, there's inconsistencies here. It's a little bit raw. In some moments it's great, in other moments it's very loose, which is a bit of a concern, but he is a young player, younger than most of the players on this list. But what I do like is there are moments where he can take the ball and dribble. He doesn't mind moving into the channels and actually isolating a defender and trying to beat them. I think it's always fun to see a striker that can do that. In terms of trying to make a Manchester United attack more fluid, having a striker that can peel into these channels, be a running outlet, but also someone that can carry the ball, is potentially really promising. And then you've got the final thing. He knows where the back of the net is, and his ball striking in particular is scary. It's like a thunderbolt when he hits the ball. He whacks it. He proper smashes the ball. He connects with the ball very, very well if he's given a little bit of time. And that's where I have a slight concern over this young man. He's a young man. He's not proven, right? You're almost signing an idea with Cesco rather than the finished article. There's the potential that he could be an amazing centre forward. I think he's got the potential to be the best striker on the planet at some point, but he's not that right now. And is he going to become that? I don't know. Manchester United won't know. Is that a risk that we can afford to take? Let me know what you think in the comments. Another player that would be viewed as a risky signing is Nicholas Jackson. Now, we spoke about him last week and we got a lot of negative feedback in the comments. Not for the video, which I appreciate, but for the idea of Jackson. And I think some of the criticism of him was a little bit harsh. Do I think Jackson is an amazing goal scorer? No, we will start off with that weakness. He is not a good finisher. We discussed that last week. He does not strike the ball very well at all. However, what I think we need to do when we think about the Jackson link is just take a step back. And rather than looking at it as a position, a striker, an inside forward, a wing back, let's look at it as a starting 11. Two goal scorers are already in the team in Cunha and Bryan Mbeumo. Two goal scorers in a typical football team is plenty. So perhaps the striker doesn't have to be such a natural bagsman. Just an idea. If that is the case, then Jackson can bring something to this team. We spoke about it last week, his ability to create separation away from centre-backs, giving himself time on the ball, which is a difficult skill in itself, but then working with the ball. Jackson is a good ball carrier, a good dribbler, someone who takes the ball well and looks to take people on, especially if he's got a bit of space to operate in, space that Bryan Mbeumo could create. So actually, maybe this could work. I'm not necessarily going to recommend Jackson, but if he was to sign and it was a good fee, I wouldn't be mad at it at all. I think his ability to link and bring others into the game could actually be very, very effective. We've just signed two excellent ball strikers, two players that will score a lot of goals. What United need to do, though, is make sure that we can actually get the ball to them and that there is a synergy and we are linking throughout the team, right? So rather than defence, midfield, attack, we need it all to blend. And Jackson, a bit like Xerxes, is the sort of player that can do that can come towards the ball and bring others into the game. What Jackson has over Xerxes, though, is the fact that he can spin into the channels. Jackson is a good runner, he's got good speed, and he is someone that will go in behind. And again, his movement in the final third is absolutely brilliant. It's just a shame he can't finish. Now, I've got to be honest, the next two players on this list are ones that I am a little bit uncertain on. However, Manchester United have been linked with them. We know that one of them has literally been offered to the club, and the other is a name that has been thrown into the hat recently. We're going to start off with Dusan Vlahovic. Now, this is a striker who was once seen as potentially one of the best strikers in the world. I remember probably 4 years ago, he was scoring a lot of goals, and people sat there going, I want him at my football club. I remember Arsenal fans really wanting Vlahovic to sign, and unfortunately he hasn't fulfilled that potential, partly because Juventus has been a bit of a circus over the past few seasons, not ran particularly well. The environment hasn't been good, the structure hasn't been consistent, so Vlahovic has struggled to reach his potential. However, if you've got quality, and he's still relatively young, he has still got a chance to fulfill that quality. So what are the qualities that he possesses? Well, he's more technical, I think, than what people assume. He's actually a player who, rather than always sprinting in behind and wanting to play as a box striker, he actually prefers to come a little bit deeper and get involved with the play. Almost like just a worse version of Harry Kane, if you like, in that sense, where he actually likes to come towards the ball and try and bring others into the game. Not with the same flair of a Joshua Zirkzee, for example, but perhaps with an efficiency of someone like Ivan Toney, who's going to come deep towards the ball, look after it with decent size, physicality, but also good technique, and then try and bring others into the game with his passing. That's the sort of thing that Vlahovic likes to do. At the same time, he can also go in behind. He can stretch the defence the other way. Not as quick as some of the others, but his intelligence helps him out. His movement, his timing of movement is pretty good. You won't find him offside in these situations because he sort of drifts in behind the defence with his timing being spot on. And then once in the final third, he's a very good finisher. Very, very good finisher. But also sometimes a terrible one. Vlahovic is a bit of a streaky player. If you could refine his game, you're getting yourself an amazing goal scorer. The problem is he goes up and then he goes down, and he goes up and he goes down. He scores loads of goals and then he can't finish anything. So it's a bit of a tricky one with Vlahovic because you never know quite what player you're going to get. However, it does feel like the environment at Manchester United is starting to shift. The mentality is changing. Perhaps it's now a better environment for someone like Vlahovic to come into and actually maybe become a very good striker for Manchester United. So a gamble, but the potential is still there, and he's definitely quality. Now, Moise Kean is the last player on the list for today, and again, this is going to feel like a very rogue one, and that just perhaps points to the fact that Manchester United have been quite slow in the transfer market with the strikers, right? The likes of Gyökeres, the likes of Osimhen aren't available anymore. They've gone elsewhere. We can't bring them into the club. So you have to get a little bit creative, and Manchester United have been linked with Moise Kean. And if I'm being completely honest, if you said this to me 6 months ago, I'd have gone, well, isn't he the guy that failed at Everton and then hasn't really ever kicked on? But I've watched him a bit more recently, and the links do make a little bit of sense, to be fair. He's incredibly physical. He has played in the Premier League before, so understands at least the tempo, the intensity. Keane, yeah, like I said, is very, very physical, very strong young player who can hold off actually some of the strongest defenders in the world. The usage of his body is very good, so he's physical, but also intelligent and technical with the way that he holds up the ball, which I think is important. Once again, here we are getting ourselves a runner, someone who can be a target man, but also a runner in behind, which is a lovely combination to have. And it does feel like something that Ruben Amorim is looking for with his striker. So Keane could come towards the ball, look after it in that way, but also he can spin in behind and get into the channels. And particularly if he's isolating fullbacks, he's too powerful for them most of the time because he's got the build of a powerful striker, but when he moves into these positions, he's against smaller fullbacks. And this is where his power can actually just overwhelm the opposition. In terms of his technical traits, not so great. Not so great. He's not someone who is amazing with his first touch. He's not an amazing dribbler. I wouldn't call him a linking striker. You know, he's not someone who is going to drop in deep and hold the ball up beautifully. So he can be a target man, but not necessarily do the linking work. He's not going to slide through balls through for someone like Mbumo to run onto. He's not going to do amazing link-up play with Bruno Fernandes. That's not really his game. We are looking at more of a physical asset here. And then when we get to the final third, we're looking at actually a really intelligent player. His movement is very good. It creates some excellent opportunities for himself. You will rarely see him stationary in the box. And if he is, he's only doing it so he can then get an advantage over the defender, almost standing still, waiting for the space. And what I like is that once the ball comes into the box, thanks to his good movement, his first touch is normally good in these kind of deadly positions. But again, he's got the strength, he's got the physicality to look after the ball. We'll often see a player take a good first touch in the box, but then due to the nature of the box being quite chaotic, we'll see them sort of bundled over, or centre-back's just too strong, they shrug them off and they clear the ball. Keane has got this really good strength to hold off the opposition, and this means that he doesn't have to be as quick a finisher as what other players are, because he can use his strength and his size to actually hold off the defender, and that's almost what's buying him just that extra half a second. And then his finishing last season was really impressive. Now, again, perhaps this is a late bloomer, not necessarily someone who hit the ground running at the age of 20, but perhaps is starting to fulfill his potential and become the player that we always thought he could be. So yes, that is 5 different strikers that Manchester United could sign this summer to finish off that brand new front three. And I'm very aware that a lot of you guys won't like several of these options, and that's understandable. I'm not particularly keen on several of them either. It's just, this is what's left, and these are the players that we have been linked with in the past 3 to 4 weeks. These are the rumours that I have seen. I think someone like Ollie Watkins, for example, is a very good solution. I think he offers almost guaranteed short-term success, but you're probably only getting 3 years out of him. Someone like Cesco, a lot of potential. The ceiling is sky high, and like I said, he could be the best striker in the world someday, but he's not right now. He's very raw. You're signing potential rather than a finished article. And then you've got those players like Jackson, Vlahovic and Keane, who are a little bit in the middle, where at some point in their career they've been tipped as having a load of potential, then it's sort of gone down a little bit, then it's gone up a little bit. In moments they look very good, in moments they look unsure. So in terms of which of the 5 you would like, it really depends on what sort of profile you want. Do you want to take a gamble, a very expensive gamble, on someone that could be the best in the world? Do you want the finished article already? Or do you want to take a cheaper gamble on a player that might be something really special at some point? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. The striker situation is a tricky one. Like I said, unfortunately, we have left it till late in the window, where a lot of the good players are already moving or have decided to stay at their clubs. So it's a little bit tricky now for United, but I still think there's some good options out there. So let me know which one you would like in the comments down below. But apart from that, we're finished for today's video. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it. Please leave a like, subscribe, and also check out these 2 other videos that are on the channel. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.